You're listening to Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast for and by Rockies fans on Rocky Mountain Rooftop. Thank you for joining us as we discuss all things baseball and Colorado Rockies. Hello and welcome to Affected by Altitude, the Colorado Rockies podcast on Rocky Mountain Rooftop, the proud affiliate of Fans First Sports Network. I'm your host, Evan Lang. With me is Skyler Timmons.
Ah!
About sums up how we are feeling this morning as we record. At time of recording last night was the Major League Baseball non-tender deadline. And, well, but we didn't even get any delicious breaded fried chicken tenders.
I actually did have a chicken tender last night.
Oh, okay.
For supper,
well,
so.
Then you mess things up because it's the non-tender deadline. You're supposed to not eat tenders.
No, I think it's just called the tender deadline, but then we call it the non-tender.
What kind of dipping sauce do you prefer for your tenders?
Barbecue sauce.
It's a solid choice.
It's the only choice.
I like honey mustard. Though it depends on the chicken tender. If we're talking like Raising Cane's tenders, you got to go with cane sauce because obviously.
Interesting. Yeah, I guess it is called the non-tender. Well, it seems mixed. MLB tender deadline. There's the non-tender deadline. There is no definitive answer.
The naming, like our reactions to what the Rockies did, are mixed. What a great segue.
Mm-hmm.
Ride that segue down the street because you know what they say, Skyler. The Rockies are going to Rocky. And it was an interesting deadline. We'll start with the small stuff. To avoid arbitration, Sam Hilliard and Lucas Gilbreath were both tendered contracts. Lucas Gilbreath, the left-handed pitcher, spent most of his 2024 season recovering from Tommy John. He's going to get paid something like $785,000.
So slightly above league minimum.
And Sam Hilliard, who looks to settle in as the team's fourth outfielder with the departure of Jake Cave and Charlie Blackmon, is going to make about $1 million buckaroos.
Good for him. That's less than what he was projected to get. I think he was projected for like 1.6, somewhere in there. So you save a little bit of money, but that makes sense. On those, both of those are like, okay.
Yeah, those two are totally fine. Gilbreath especially, it's not really a ton of money, and with his recovery was pretty tough last year. He spent most of the season out after getting Tommy John surgery in 2023. He tried to come back and just kept battling with some shoulder inflammation, and he struggled and got shut back down. So I am hoping that a full offseason of rest and warm-up programs for Gilly will let him come back, because his first two seasons before Tommy John, he was a very solid contributor out of the Rockies bullpen.
Yeah, no, it's a nice safe bet. First year arbitration, you're like, okay, nice and cheap. He hasn't been around these last 2 years. They still believe in him, so we'll see if he can be healthy. If he's not healthy, okay, no harm, no foul. You haven't paid a bunch for it, and yeah, so it makes sense. Not bad deals.
Basically, the opposite of the Blue Jays chose to non-tender their former All-Star closer Jordan Romano because he was due something like an estimated $8.8 million in 2025, and he's just very much struggled to stay healthy. He missed most of the season last year with after having surgery for an elbow impingement. So much less of a safe bet, though. Hey, Rockies, if you're looking for a veteran bullpen reclamation project.
Well, yeah, just across the league, a huge influx of free agents now that they can look at, which it's sort of like maybe like they should move the tender deadline like up a little bit. I don't know, because it feels like sometimes free agency doesn't actually start until after this deadline, after they've already protected people on the 40-man, and then this tender deadline, and then there's a whole influx of free agents. So I don't know, it's kind of weird.
Now I can see it. Honestly, you could make a case for doing the QO deadline and the non-tender deadline on the same day.
Yeah.
And then the other move, as said, Sam Hilliard is returning on a $1 million contract to avoid arbitration. MLB trade rumors had him estimated at $1.7 million, so that's a little bit of a savings. And, Hilliard had a decent season in his return to the Rockies last year. He hit 10 home runs and really settled in and embraced a backup outfielder kind of role as a veteran. So I'm happy with this move. It means we basically locked down that fourth outfielder option. We don't have to worry about there being a competition for it, especially with, Charlie Blackmon's retired, so he's not playing right field or anything like that. Jake Cave is gone. So overall, I like that move as well.
Yeah, no, it's as long as it's not a Jake Cave situation where he's playing every single day. We like Hilliard, but he's not an everyday bat anymore, or if he ever really ever was. Just because of his batting profile, we don't need another one of those bats every day. But he's a good, occasional part-time guy, perhaps a platoon bat, bring some pop off the bench, hit the ball hard, play some good defense. So use him sparingly.
Yeah. Use him as you are supposed to, not as Jake Cave.
Don't, in a world, don't be a Jake Cave.
But then, so those are the only two that we know the contract details of at this time. So right now, where we are sitting, we are waiting. I believe the deadline's January 9th or something like that to know if they will accept the contracts they have been offered. Ryan Feltner, Justin Lawrence, and Austin Gomber. We are waiting to hear what the details of those contracts will be, or if they are going to have to go and, meet with an arbitrator to try and figure something out.
Yeah. It's just they're under contract in theory. Where, hey, we're going to figure out a contract. We want you on the team still. Now they'll continue to exchange numbers and negotiate and try to figure something out. And then eventually then they'll, if it comes to it, then go to arbitration meetings in like February or whatever. So we won't have to worry. Well, it's just a matter of how much, perhaps, and maybe even, I don't know if there's trade some of these homies. Who knows if stuff will still work out, but
yeah. Of the three, Austin Gomber is projected to make the most at $5.6 million, followed by Ryan Feltner at $2.6, and then Justin Lawrence at $1 million even. And Skyler, like you said, we've got to hope that maybe there's trades or more moves coming down the pipeline, because there's doings afoot. And we'll start with that the Colorado Rockies have non-tendered and made free agents of second baseman Brendan Rodgers and right-handed pitcher Cal Quantrill. Not really how we expected his time as a Rocky to end for Brendan Rodgers. A talented defensive second baseman, but very clearly to me, we talked about this a little bit last week, is that his 2022 season looks much more like an outlier combined with his other body of work. The struggles to stay healthy and the just never really living up to that first round, third overall draft pedigree from the 2015 draft. The former number one Rockies top prospect will now look for a fit elsewhere. And there are places where he fits. There's rumors that he could fit in with the New York Yankees, sort of take up the DJ LeMahieu mantle, though obviously LeMahieu a much better hitter. And I've heard some light rumblings that, he could be a solid fit in Seattle, who are also potentially looking for a second baseman. But yeah, Brendan Rodgers is no more.
And I'm not mad about it. Like, they need to do something with him. They figured it was just going to let him ride out the year and then hit free agency. Okay, that's just the natural progression. But at some point, they had to do something with him. Because like you said, he was that third overall pick, was supposed to be really that cornerstone at second base, the heir apparent. This is why you let DJ LeMahieu walk. No, this is why you figure out where to put Ryan McMahon, so then Rodgers can play second base because you had Story at short, so they need to move him. And then you need to move McMahon somewhere. And so I think so much of the Rockies' plans hinged on, okay, Brendan Rodgers, he's going to complement. We've got Nolan Arenado at third, homegrown. Shortstop, we've got Trevor Story, homegrown. We have Brendan Rodgers at second base, homegrown. He's the next superstar that we're going to have.
Yeah.
But then his body was like, psych.
Yeah. 2 season-ending shoulder injuries, including one in 2023. He spent time on the injured list in basically every single season of his professional career so far. And you're right, Skyler, so much of the Rockies' strategy just seems to rely on, well, this guy that we drafted, he's going to be the next big thing. And then when they're not, this happens.
Mm-hmm. And I understand people on the internet being mad. Would you believe that, Evan? People on the internet are mad about something?
No.
But I can understand them being mad of why would they just let him walk for nothing? To their credit, Patrick Saunders does say they tried to trade him, feel out trades, and really nothing that they figured was any good. And that's okay. If they looked, and the Rockies themselves, you don't need to trade him just for the sake of trading him to say you got something back for him. The time to do that, Evan, was several years ago. But they're not just going to trade him for the sake of bodies who are going to take up space when you have a much better prospect system, probably better than what you could get for him, because he's a 28-year-old injury-prone second baseman who's kind of inconsistent at the plate. The power can flash when he gets on a hot streak, but ultimately it's a lot of contact, a ton of ground balls, and not as much production as you'd hope for from that type of player and that caliber of player where he was drafted and all that stuff and what his projections should have been. And honestly, his defense falling back down to earth, bro, kind of average. So with that and the money, I can understand why teams are like, we'll just stick with our in-house or some other cheap free agents at second base. So it's a move that inevitably it could have only ended this way for Brendan Rodgers and the Rockies.
But who will have a mullet and beard on our team next season?
Herman Marquez.
I see. Yeah, for Rodgers especially, the toughest part of his batting profile has been that ground ball percentage. Above 50 in basically every single season from 2020 onward. 56.5% ground ball rate in 2024. And I will say I am a little frustrated that they weren't able to get anything from him, because I think with Patrick Saunders comes out and says, well, they did try, is that either one of two things happened with that. Is either legitimately there was no trade market for him, which fine, if that happens, I get it. But I've just got that little clawing doubt in the back of my head of the Rockies' historical MO, which is overvaluing their guys immensely and saying, well, that's not good enough for Brendan Rodgers. He was a number 1 prospect 10 years ago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it totally could. But then there's also fans that are overvaluing as well. So there's a lot of overvaluing going on, I would say. And hey, I can figure it's more so there was really nothing. The return you would get back really wasn't anything worthwhile enough to make a trade. So unless they were looking for a major league caliber arm or something of that nature, and teams probably aren't going to want to give that up for Rodgers. No, he really wasn't worth that. Now, could they have maybe swung a deal like Cincinnati did with Jonathan India to move him somewhere, who the Royals acquire, and they are pretty darn similar players in a lot of aspects. Maybe they could have done that, but maybe once they see that, they're like, oh well, there's nothing else to do.
Yeah, it was the Royals with the big surprise of the day, in which they traded Jonathan India and gosh, who was the other guy for Brady Singer, Joey Waymer for Brady Singer, and I will say India profiles better than Rodgers overall, but like you said, if you look at their stats, they're remarkably similar over the last couple seasons. Which makes it all a little more frustrating for me. But if there truly was no deal to be had, so be it. This was the move to make. You don't want to pay Brendan Rodgers the approximate $5.5 million he was due, and you've got young guys coming up. I feel very similar about Cal Quantrill, who was the other guy that the Rockies non-tendered. He was due $9 million estimated in arbitration, and once again, the time to trade him was much earlier than now. He should have been traded at the deadline last year, or in the 2024 season, because he absolutely fell off a cliff after the deadline.
Well, it was really after May that he started falling off a cliff, and that tanked his value by the time that deadline happened. And again, same situation. I think they tried, but there was really no market there, is what it sounds like. And it makes sense. Like, who wants this pitcher that's really not that great when there's other options on the market? And the teams that would have wanted him, but would have wanted that pitching, they were already set up well enough with their own in-house options.
And probably wouldn't have wanted to pay $9 million for him once they received him.
Yeah, he was destined to be non-tendered either way.
This one's not the surprising move at all. And for Cal, he did decline after May, but his overall body of work between opening day and the trade deadline is pretty solid. In 21 starts, he had 12 quality starts, a low 4 ERA. But then after starting on the deadline, he made 8 more starts and had like a 7.95 ERA and just really struggled. He had some injuries to deal with. And yeah, this one is the one that doesn't bother me at all. Cal gave us a lot of really fun moments in 2024, especially against, let's say, the Boston Red Sox and Reese McGuire. But overall, there's just not really a ton of room for him when you've basically got your rotation now set for opening day in 2025, pardon me. If everybody's healthy, it's going to be Marquez, Senzatela, Freeland, Gomber, Feltner. Unless there are more doings afoot in which, say, Gomber gets traded or someone else gets moved to make room for Chase Dollander, Carson Palmquist, whatever. But Quantrill was excess goods, and not excess goods worth keeping at the amount that they would have had to try and figure out to pay him. So with all of the non-tenders or releases following the end of the season right now, so the Rockies also walked away from Dakota Hudson, Jake Cave, and Peter Lambert. The Rockies are saving an approximate 20.3. Oh, goodness, I wrote it down. I might as well just look at the actual number instead of trying to guesstimate.
It's a little over $20 million.
$20.1 million in payroll. And if you add the 13 plus million that the Rockies are, having off the books with Charlie Blackmon retiring, you're looking at a payroll, and Daniel Bard, you're looking at a pretty hefty payroll decrease coming from last year, which checks out with the overall, sort of austerity measures we've been calling that the Rockies have been moving into this year. But then that all kind of goes out the window when they do something silly, which we'll talk about after this break. So don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
I had more thoughts on Quantrill.
You can say them after the break. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude with Evan and Skyler. And Skyler, you had just a couple more thoughts about Cal Quantrill before we move on to our next topic.
Yeah, you just started transitioning away.
I had a segue and I took it.
Yeah, I'm flipping this car around, baby.
That's what heroes do. Am I right, ladies?
Oh, but with Quantrill, it's one of those things where his first really full year, healthy, back from that shoulder injury, and ups and downs, really struggled with walks and everything. So owed too much money, like we said, destined to be non-tendered by either us or a team that if he got traded to. And it's that extra prospects knocking on the door that make him more expendable with a Dollander, a Palmquist, a Sean Sullivan, some of those guys knocking on the door, where then you can look, okay, well, Quantrill with your $9 million, see you later. And yes, we can also say, oh, they should have traded him. It's the same old thing where maybe we're overvaluing him as well. The same as the Rockies, where there's really nothing that you could get for him. Maybe you could have spun something and gotten like one prospect for him, which, hey, that could have been good. But at the end of the day, it's like, we'll just let him walk. No harm, no foul. Thank you for your service. He had a good moments throughout the year. Good, solid guy. So I look forward to where he ends up. Hopefully he finds a nice place where he can find some success and a change of scenery.
I will say, though, we traded Jalen Beeks for Luis Peralta, and that worked out just dandy for us.
Yeah, well, Beeks was doing much better than Quantrill at the time of trade.
I very strongly recall referring to him as Jalen Cheeks quite often before the deadline.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, neither of them were where this team needed them to be at this point, at that point, and
Beeks
it is what it is.
Beeks should have never been thrown into a closer spot.
No.
He has been a setup man his entire career. But Bud Black said, he's a veteran. Let's throw him in the back end.
He's got the grit.
Yeah. Ugh. Anyways.
And speaking of gritty veterans, Skyler, there's another
your
segue. The Rockies have signed 34-year-old infielder Kyle Farmer to a $3.25 million deal with up to $1.25 million in incentives and an option for 2026.
Those pesky options. What kind of option, though? If it's a mutual option, club option, I assume it's one of those. There ain't no way they would give him a player option.
Yeah, it's my guess is a mutual option. That's the most common. That's the most common option for these kinds of signings. So what we had with Jacob Stallings both last year and this year, but move,
it'll be like 3.5 with like a buyout of like $500K or something.
This move last night, especially when all the stuff was going down, was
whiplash
because Brendan Rodgers was expected to be paid $5.5 million in arbitration, estimated by MLB Trade Rumors. So we non-tender him because that's a lot of money, and you have these prospects waiting in the wing, and you want to move on. Only to immediately turn around and pay a guy potentially only $1 million less, who is 6 to 7 years older and also not very good.
Hey, that's unfair. I'll say that. That's being unfair there, Evan. You're looking at his last season. Just last year where he was playing through injury. Previously, they've been pretty on par with each other over these last 4 seasons. So more or less,
previously he was just
Brendan
okay.
Rodgers.
You bought old, lighter-haired Brendan Rodgers without a mullet and a beard.
There you go. So it's funny when General Manager Bill Schmidt tells Patrick Saunders, it was a tough decision to make, but we're going to try something new. And that something new is just getting an older version of the player you just non-tendered.
It's like Looper.
Exactly. Oh my goodness. Is Kyle Farmer going to come back in time to destroy Brendan Rodgers?
Yeah, so Farmer had his option declined by the Minnesota Twins at the option deadline, and he did have a pretty rough season last year. He had a 6.47 OPS, though admittedly he was playing through a shoulder injury, and then once he came back from that injury, he did have a much better second half.
Yeah.
You've also got the clubhouse element that the Rockies love, is that Farmer is very well regarded as an excellent teammate, an excellent clubhouse presence, and just an overall very nice guy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's all great. But I argue it is not $4.5 million great.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he doesn't bring anything new to the table. I think that's what's most frustrating for us. If this was just like hey, we're going to bring Kyle Farmer in, he's going to be an extra bench guy. Be like, okay, like that's not bad. What are we paying him? $2 million? Okay. But the fact that we're already assuming he's going to be the starting second baseman come opening day. So you're going to have McMahon, Tovar, Farmer, Tolia. One of these things is not like the others. You're bringing him in, and like I said, it's nothing new. We've seen this type of player before. We just spent the last 4 seasons with this guy at second base. But now he's just older, and his name's Kyle Farmer.
And now, what is it with this team and Kyles? We got so many Kyles.
Kyles and Nolans, baby.
Totally Kyle. Totally Nolan.
Not enough Ermans.
There's only one Erman, baby.
But there are 2 Germans.
This is just so weird. It's just so... It's an incredibly Rockies move.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, where they parted ways with Rodgers, which was the right move at the end of the day. But then they turn around and do this. And it's just like, what?
Yeah, that's where I think a lot of us come from, where, okay, you're moving on from Rodgers. We understand. I think most people understand, like, we hate to see how it ends this way, but we understand this team's rebuilding. Okay, who's going to replace him? Is it going to be Aaron Schunk? All right. Like, well, we can stomach that. That's not bad. No, he was starting to show some growth at the end of the season. He's earned that.
Or Adel Amador,
yeah,
if he really dazzles in spring training, or just, somebody keeping the spot warm for him until he's ready to go.
Yeah. Like that. And that's where Farmer comes in, where we have to view this. That's where we get mad, is the lane was wide open, Evan. The blockers opened a lane. You've got the football. It's clear daylight to the end zone of what to do, of letting just one of these younger guys fill the spot until Amador is ready, or somebody else just takes it. Make somebody earn it, make it their own. It's wide open. Just run the football in. Just tap it in, Evan. Just give it a little tapper. Tap, tap, tapperoo.
What I don't get is the whole thing has been about shedding payroll. And the Rockies don't have a ton of money to work with right now. We're getting younger. We're getting cheaper. If you rolled into a season where we are already expected to be bad with Aaron Schunk, Adel Amador, and like Greg Jones or somebody at second base, they are essentially free right now in terms of what they're being paid. But then you go and pay up to $4.5 million for a 34-year-old veteran who has that wonderful defensive versatility that the Rockies love so much, because he can play first base, he can play third base, he can play shortstop. Heck, he'll be the catcher if you ask him real nice.
And the argument against that is we don't need it in the infield. When you have Ryan McMahon plays pretty much every single day at third base. Okay. Ezekiel Tovar, he plays pretty much every single day at second base. Okay. Michael Tolia, shortstop. It's all the same, middle infield. Michael Tolia, did he set the franchise record or played consecutively at first base that no one has done since Todd Helton? Where would you put Kyle Farmer to use his versatility?
Especially, like,
if he's playing every day at second base.
And you've already got to deal with the fact that your goal going into the 2025 season is that Chris Bryant is your backup first baseman.
Yeah.
As well as the designated hitter.
No, he's going to start in right field, Evan. Didn't you hear? We're going to make it happen, baby.
I really do feel like it's going to happen, and that concerns me. But I don't hate Kyle Farmer. He's very well regarded by all the Twins writers I've spoken with, Twins fans I've spoken with. But at the same time, it's
a perplexing move for a team in the Rockies position, where this is not a team that's going to compete in 2025. We know that. We expect 100 losses again. But for some reason, they're so afraid of just committing to a prospect now. For some reason, they have to dip their toe in the water. We have to ease them in gently. When reality, and this is the problem we had with Brendan Rodgers in the first place, is you prospect hug. You got to coddle them. This is Major League Baseball. It's okay to throw these guys in the water and say sink or swim.
Yeah.
And if you sink, all right, then we'll move on to the next guy. But instead, the Rockies are coddling. Dick Monfort is personally swaddling these prospects.
And it's frustrating because you know that they're capable of doing the right thing.
Yeah.
Because look at what they did with Ezekiel Tovar. They threw him into the water and said, "You better swim, kid."
But even he still had to wait to be eased in. They had to wait until he was ready in 2021, 22 he debuted.
He made his debut in very end of season 2022, and then came in as the starting shortstop in 2023. Yeah. And in 2022, that was when we had Jose Iglesias for an entire season.
Mm-hmm. Who played well. I know people hate on him still, but he actually played well. He's one of the better hitters that year.
And it was just an extremely empty hitting season. Like, yes, he hit extremely well.
The rest of the team did not.
None of it really mattered.
It would have if the rest of the team could hit.
And there's a post on Blue Sky from Dan Lucero that made me laugh. And he's like, I'm starting to wonder if Bud Black will perish if he doesn't have a player who plays 6 positions and hits the emptiest 265 you've ever seen to give 500 inexplicable plate appearances to. They are mana for him. And that's really how this signing feels.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we're at what point how many clubhouse guys do you need? That's what I wonder. Like, they lose Charlie Blackmon. Is this their effort to replace Charlie Blackmon's presence in the clubhouse? Because you ain't getting nothing from Chris Bryant. That's probably sounds like it's talking to a brick wall with paint drying on it. And he's never around anyway. So
hey, now they're doing periodic checkups on Chris Bryant this winter.
Oh yeah, we need to do our periodic. Chris Bryant, how you doing?
My back hurts. My Lamborghini done got stolen.
I broke it in my nose.
I was going for more kind of like when Shaq is stonewalling people inside the NBA. My back hurts. Somebody stole my Lamborghini.
I don't know, Chuck. My back hurts. But this is one of our dumbest bits now through the offseason is our weekly check-in with Chris Bryant.
That Lamborghini story is just...
Yeah. We mentioned it last week.
It's weird.
It's very weird.
But yeah, I understand that you got to have a couple guys who are great clubhouse presences, but I feel like we've got some of those already. Like Sam Hilliard apparently really embraced his role as a veteran and a teacher with some of the younger guys. And at what point do you need to ask the guys who are already there to step up and be a clubhouse guy instead of having to bring one in?
Yeah, it's like a constant thing where the Rockies seem to look at the age of a guy and think that's what makes him a good leader.
He's old.
He's old. He's been around. But
look, everyone, an old man is talking.
Yeah. A cool glass of turnip juice. But Tovar is seen as a guy mature beyond his years. Brenton Doyle is coming to his own. Point is, at what point do you just let the camaraderie of these guys that have come up together flourish and build the culture of the team? Like it seems like the Rockies still feel like they're resilient to that idea of letting these younger guys set a tone and let them just make the team dictate how the team really, operates in the clubhouse and as a feel the team. Instead, you've got old man Bud Black in there.
Who's got to bring in his old men.
Yeah, who is like, I need my veterans. They're good.
It really comes across to me as just a total unwillingness from this organization to trust the young guys.
Yeah.
That's why there's always got to be some new old man to bring in who's, this guy's going to set things straight.
Yeah. And they have a resilience to, like, they put too much stock into a small sample size with some of these younger guys. I take like Drew Romo last year, very small sample size, and he struggled a little bit in his small sample size, but they immediately like,
nope,
Hunter Goodman, you're catching now. They're like, no, just let Drew Romo play every day, let him figure it out at the plate, and just finish out the month of September. There's no harm in that. Maybe it hurts his confidence, but he then grow some thick skin and confront it head on.
Yeah, having your confidence hurt is a learning opportunity.
Yeah.
And a truly good Major League Baseball player will be able to use that to grow.
Mm-hmm. And like Amador struggled in his little brief stint with the Rockies. Understandable. He was struggling in Double-A that year at that point when he got called up. But then he goes back down, does much better, kind of gets back into his old rhythm.
And he even showed some flashes of what makes him so special while he was here on the big league team. Like, we all looked at him at the end of that tenure and went, you know what? He's not ready yet, but boy, could he be good when he is.
Mm-hmm. And that's the same with a lot of these guys. Aaron Schunk, another example of played really sporadically, didn't play a whole lot. And so obviously his numbers aren't going to be great because it's hard to play like that when you're not playing regularly. You go from playing regularly in AAA to maybe I'll get a start this week. I don't know. Maybe I'll pinch hit. And so, of course, his numbers aren't going to be good. But then we start to see at the end of the season, as he gets more reps, a little more regularly, he's starting to show some stuff. He's starting to work through it. He's getting to a spot where, you could play every day.
Yeah, started hitting some homers, started getting some good clutch hits.
Yeah.
And so I really liked what I saw from Aaron Schunk at the end of last season.
Yeah, I did too. That's why a lot of it was like, okay, if we move on from Rodgers, let Shunky play second base.
Yeah, give him a chance.
Even if it's with the intention of, hey, man, like, you're going to start here. This is Amador's spot. But you do your best. And then, maybe you can figure out something. Maybe then he becomes a good trade chip. All that good stuff. Maybe things work out differently where he blows up on the scene. You're like, we can't get rid of this guy. And so, but then this all becomes murkier when you bring in a Kyle Farmer, who, if he was coming in as a bench bat, the bench guy, utility infielder, okay, fine. But at 3.5 million, he's going to be your starting second baseman.
This is Daniel Murphy again.
Good old beer league Murphy.
And
Farmer seems more likable.
Very much so. But apparently he was the one behind the rally sausage last year. He wears friendship bracelets. Like, I'm not trying to trash on Kyle Farmer the person. He seems like legitimately like a great dude from everything that I have heard.
Yeah, and I'm going to root for him. And like, if he comes in and earns his paycheck and like gets back to some good production and some way, somehow even gets better, I'm not mad that he's here. I'm just mad about the circumstances of why he's here.
It's not being mad at him. It's being mad at the organization.
I'm not mad. Kyle, we're not mad at you. It's not your fault. We're not mad at you.
Well, it's honestly like, it's always the thing of, I will never blame a player for taking the money or taking a deal. It's like, it wasn't Ian Desmond's fault that we chose to pay him $70 million. Mm-hmm. I would take $70 million. It's the same as we've got the whole Daniel Jones debacle going on in with the New York Giants in football right now. Of, yes, they paid him way too much. That ain't Daniel Jones's fault.
Mm-hmm.
But if Kyle Farmer does good, great. Honestly, I will be super happy for him because legitimately seems like a good guy. People want him to succeed, and it would be nice to just have a guy come in and be good, and then it sets the Rockies up for a bunch of different things. Where if he's really good, and then Amador is ready, you trade him, or if he's really good and or at least bounces back to form, and Amador's not ready or something like that, then you can look at his option or see what else you can do. But it's just to wrap things up. What rubs me the wrong way at the end of the day is that when we are allegedly shedding all this payroll and we get rid of Brendan Rodgers for being essentially worth $5.5 million, we sign his older, we sign a shade of the future of the guy with very similar production when he's hitting well, to just $1 million less if he hits all of his incentives.
Yeah.
That's what bothers me. It's the organization doing something that doesn't really make a whole lot of sense if you dig into it.
Yeah. If they had just brought him in hey, $2 million, we just need you to play second base for now. No. Yeah. That is easier to stomach.
Yeah.
If it would also be hey, this is a stopgap. We're doing this just until Amador or somebody else is ready. We can do that. So the best way to view this, I think, for everybody is this is the Jose Iglesias deal from 2022, pre-pop star, but just second base now. And he'll do his thing. He'll be better defensively. Well, at least Jose Iglesias actually, who knows what happened to him this year. But Farmer, think of it in that instance of this is the stopgap. He'll hold the fort down until one of those younger guys they feel is ready. Maybe Amador hits the ground running to start off 2025. If he starts maybe down in AAA, if he hits the ground running, has a good spring, hits the ground running, could be up by the end of April, and then boom, Amador maybe is getting more time. So just be patient. That's my plea to those listening. Be patient. I know it sucks, but be patient.
Yeah, and that's Kyle Farmer.
Mm-hmm.
We are going to take one last break, so don't go anywhere. We'll be right back. Welcome back to Affected by Altitude. Evan and Skyler here for one final segment on this week's show. One more free agency kind of thing to talk about is the Rockies have brought back Jacob Stallings to catch in 2025 on a 1-year, $2 million deal with a mutual option for 2026 and a $500,000 buyout. So he is essentially guaranteed $2.5 million. This all comes after
buyout.
This basically all comes after he declined his mutual option and got the buyout following the 2024 season to renegotiate a new contract. It took a little longer than I expected, honestly. It had taken so long that I legitimately was going, I wonder if he's not coming back because he might get more somewhere else. Because he did have a pretty good season with the Rockies. One of the best seasons of his whole career at the plate. And overall is still a very solid defensive catcher. But no, he is back for 2025. And Skyler, I'm okay with this. It's not a ton of money, $2.5 million. And he is, his expectations are that he's just going to continue doing what he's been doing, is be a cromulent hitter, and most importantly, a solid defensive catcher that works very well with the pitching staff, especially a pitching staff, bullpen-wise, that's gotten younger, and rotation-wise is probably going to start getting younger.
Yeah, it's not. It makes sense. There was never a doubt in my mind he was coming back because the Rockies made it very clear, we want him back, and he was like, I want to be back. And we've heard that before, but when you're a 35-year-old catcher, it's a little easier to fathom that, oh, yeah, he'll come back. because the catching market's actually pretty thin, or it's pretty thin. I don't know how many got influxed in now after the non-tender deadline, but he's well respected. He liked being with the team, had that resurgence at the plate, worked well with the pitchers and everything. So he's got the $2 million salary with the $500K buyout, and the buyout will increase by $150K if he plays in 80 games, another $150K if he plays in 90 games, 200 and then ups another $200K if he appears in 100 games behind the plate. So that buyout could raise up quite a bit more, close to maybe like earn him maybe about $3 million or so plus on the buyout on this 1-year deal. So that was kind of understandable what the deal would be. So nice and cheap. There's not a whole lot much else to say. Like, good to have him back. It'll be interesting to see who his tandem partner is, because as it stands, really 2 options of Hunter Goodman, Drew Romo. That's really where we're at.
Yeah, I think it's going to be Goodman to start the season. But we'll see. Spring training will, tell us a lot of things about this team going into the 2025 season.
Hear me out here, Evan. What if they brought back Elias Diaz? Doesn't that sound like a good catching tandem?
I feel like I was actually wondering. I think I was talking with Sam in our Slack channel of like, if Stallings doesn't come back, it would be very Rockies if they just brought back Elias Diaz, because I don't think his market is going to be particularly huge this offseason. He's also an older catcher and didn't have a very good 2024. But I don't know. We'll see. It's tricky because I think Hunter Goodman, I've seen a lot of people go, Hunter Goodman's not a catcher, but I think he did totally fine as a catcher last year when push came to shove. And
but Romo's still better.
Yes, defensively, Romo is always going to be the glove first catcher. And if he can right the ship a little bit, figure out some of the things that ails him in terms of hitting, in terms of some of his other stuff, that's not a prospect you want to move on from. It's going to be interesting. But yeah, welcome back, Jacob Stallings.
Romo has the potential to be a more consistent hitter than Hunter Goodman, who's ball go far every once in a while.
Ball go very far, though.
Ball go far, I hit 200.
I do like when ball go far, though.
Just
let's be
harder
real.
to stomach the 40 strikeouts that happen in between home runs.
See, the thing is, I can stomach that if it's not everybody on the team doing that. Like if it was just Hunter Goodman and Michael Toglia with low batting averages, but they wall up a lot of home runs, that works fine for me. But when it's everyone on the team striking out 100 times per season, that's when it gets a little bit trickier to deal with. But that's really about it in terms of what the Rockies have done so far this free agency. Now we just sit and wait for how the rest of the thing goes. So the last thing we really want to talk about today is the ballots are out for the 2025 Professional Baseball Hall of Fame class. And on those ballots are former Colorado Rockies Carlos González and Troy Tulowitzki.
Ooh, yay.
Neither of them have even the slightest chance of making it into the Hall.
I don't like that attitude, Evan. Where's the hope?
You
don't think Carlos González with his 20-something career WAR is getting into the Hall of Fame?
I think Tulo's got a better chance. I don't think he gets in, but I think he's at least got a better chance of not falling off the ballot year one. But I thought that about Matt Holliday last year, where Matt Holliday had a pretty good career, and I expected him to maybe stay on that ballot at least a couple years. Just didn't happen. And now I think it's going to be the same with Tulo, where in my mind, and granted, I say this as a homer and having watched Tulo, is that he is good and he was good enough to be a Hall of Famer. But because of all of the injuries that, shortened his career, got him less playing time, kept his numbers lower, that outside of my perspective, he's not going to get in.
Yeah, I don't think neither of them will ever really get in. But the thing that I hope for, and that's the cool thing with the ballot, is that people don't just immediately write them off, but you actually celebrate and look into these players' careers and realize, oh, these guys were really good during their eras. Not Hall of Fame worthy, but at
Very
the end of the
good.
day, yeah, at the end of the day, but people can look and celebrate like these guys were legit. Like you said, Tulo was a Hall of Fame trajectory shortstop if he could just stay on the dang field. But for some reason just ran into so much trouble, health-wise, whether it was his foot or his groin or all kinds of other stuff that just kept sidelining him. But
Yeah.
he made the most of his time on the field during his career, especially those 10 years in Colorado where he hit 299, 371, 513, had 188 homers in 1,048 games, 5 All-Star selections, 2 Silver Sluggers, 2 Gold Gloves, had a 6.8 RWAR in his rookie season, finished second in the Rookie of the Year voting, where he hit 291, had 24 homers, 99 ribbies, finished MVP voting in 6 seasons with 2 fifth-place finishes in 2009, 2010. It's tons of stuff. He ranks as one of the greatest shortstops of all time at the end of the day when you even look at his stats. Like a top 20 shortstops of all time.
And his prime, although short due to injuries, was really that good. Like if you take out in terms of WAR, if you take out his 2 first seasons where he really dealt with the most injuries, which was 2008 and 2012, you look 2007 6.8, 2009 6.5, 2010 6.7, 2011 6.2, 13 5, 14 5.7, and across those seasons, even including 2008 and 2012, he was worth a combined 38.2 wins above replacement.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that Tulo ended up being worth 44.5 wins above replacement in a career that ended up being really plagued by injuries, especially in the second half of it. Like, just imagine what he could have done if he had been able to stay healthy. Mm-hmm. And the way I look at it is, for making a case for him being in the Hall of Fame, is the Terrell Davis rule, in which Terrell Davis is a Hall of Famer, an absolutely a Hall of Famer, but his prime was short and he dealt with injuries and all of that stuff. But man, when he shined bright in that prime of his, it was so bright, and he should have won Rookie of the Year in 2007, and he probably should have had a couple MVP finishes where he ranked higher than 5th place. Mm-hmm. And he was a legitimately great player.
Yeah. And like we were talking about his WAR, finishing 6 seasons with at least 5 WAR, puts him in a group with Ernie Banks, Alan Trammell, Derek Jeter, Nomar Garciaparra, and Francisco Lindor. There are only a handful of shortstops not in the Hall of Fame that have a better 40.7 RWAR during their 7 best seasons. He's 21st overall in the 7 best seasons combined. Only shortstops ahead of him that are not in the Hall of Fame: Jim Fregosi, Jack Glasscock, Francisco Lindor, Nomar Garciaparra, and Alex Rodriguez. So he's in some elite company across the board, and I don't, like we said, don't expect him to get in, but he deserves more conversation about him, just like Matt Holliday did too. Like they were some of the best, and Tulo at least had some of more of the notoriety than Holliday. Holliday was just always known as like this solid hitting dude. Like there was not much fanfare about him, but Tulo had fanfare during his time in Colorado and on the larger stage. People knew who Troy Tulowitzki was.
Yeah, and I feel like it's really in our current era of baseball, people don't really talk about him anymore, and that's a darn shame because he really was that good.
Because it fizzled out so badly. I think that's the thing, is where if there's a Hall of Fame for what if players, Troy Tulowitzki's first ballot for that.
Yeah. His grand finale for his career in 2019 at age 34 with the Yankees, in which he played in 5 games and had 2 hits.
Mm-hmm. And
Just,
then a calf injury sidelined him, and he
just
called
a far cry from the player that we knew. On the bright side, though, it was announced that Troy Tulowitzki will be inducted into the Colorado Sports Hall of Fame in 2025.
Woo!
So
if
that
only there
is,
was a team Hall of Fame he could get into.
you know, in that nice big square down by the stadium.
Mm-hmm.
But we've harped on that so much.
Yeah. But with Tulo, it's just, I just hope he gets more recognition, because truly, in this cycle, I hope people talk about him, maybe even throw him a vote or two. Just throw him on at tail end at the end of the ballot if they have room. Like, just throw him a vote. Don't give him that recognition, because, man, the modern day shortstop that we have today was helped revolutionized because of Troy Tulowitzki. Because it was always the small, scrappy, kind of speedy guy that's a slap hitter. No, here comes Tulo at like 6'5", big, tall dude, 6'3", 6'4", 200 some odd pounds, just muscly, big dude at the plate who's a straight up menace.
Yeah.
Power hitter.
A stellar defender who will punish you at the plate if you are not careful.
And so then that paves the way of look at the modern day shortstop now, and just how they approach hitting, defense. No, there's hardly a kid growing up in Colorado from like 2007 to 2015 in that era that weren't like, who's your favorite player? Oh, it's Troy Tulowitzki. What position do you want to play? I want to play shortstop because of Troy Tulowitzki. It's like he was so defining to Colorado baseball, Rockies baseball. I'm glad he's in a Hall of Fame down there. We talked to Jared Thomas, Rockies outfielder. Tulo, like he said, I love what he said, working in Texas. Tulo's the best thing to ever happen to me, just because of his hitting knowledge, working as a hitting coach, and to help Thomas blossom and gets drafted by the Rockies. Skyler Messenger down in the Arizona Fall League. Tulo's also one of his favorite players and got to play under him at Texas. So,
Troy Tulowitzki was, as a teenager / young adult, the first jersey I got that was not like a kid's jersey or something like that. It was my birthday. My mom said, you've always wanted a jersey. What jersey do you want? And I said, Troy Tulowitzki.
Instead, you got a t-shirt that said Tulowitzki.
You can still find those on eBay. The misprints.
But
I've been tempted a few times. I'm not going to lie. Just because it's a funny little piece.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tulo was a good one, and hopefully the Rockies can maybe do the right thing and like do a little bit more of their part of just highlight him on social media or do some stuff. Do just even a tiny bit of campaigning for him instead of just a graphic that says, "Congrats, Tulo."
I would really like to see, and I don't think it's going to happen, but I would really like to see over this winter and into next season, the Rockies and Tulo try and mend the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
When he left the team in 2015, it was bad. He declared that he never wanted anything to do with this team ever again.
I don't want to talk to those people.
He is one of the few people who did not make any sort of appearance or make any sort of like recorded statement for the 25th anniversary team, in which he was named one of the greatest players in franchise history by fan vote. And I would really, it's been almost 10 years now. It'll be 10 years next year. I would really like to see that hatchet get buried.
Mm-hmm. When was the Rock? Oh yeah, that was 2018, the 25th anniversary. But yeah, we didn't like see anything with like the Todd Helton stuff. It'd just be nice to, it's been 10 years. Like, oh, you got traded, boo-hoo. You got paid millions of dollars, and I know your feelings were hurt and bad relationship, but the bad bright itch is gone. The
Yeah.
bad man is gone. Unfortunately, Monfort's still here, but he would also maybe. It's easier to maybe mend the bridge with Dick Monfort than it is Jeff Bridich.
I feel like with Dick Monfort, we know a lot about Dick Monfort, and he is a very, oh gosh, what's the word I'm looking for? The word, not emotional, but
sentimental guy.
Yes, sentimental. Thank you. He's a very sentimental guy, and legitimately, I do think he'd be willing to mend that bridge as well if both parties were willing to approach it.
Yeah, would be nice. But Rockies Hall of Fame, come on, let's get it created already, Dick. Get those purple jackets
and put back the history of the ball statue at Gate E.
Sure. Also, really quick, Evan, we should probably touch on Cargo just a little bit.
Yes,
yeah, he's not getting into the Hall of Fame. He's dropping off immediately. But
one of the
he's
sweetest swings in team history,
and he's on the ballot, which, in and of itself, is a great
pretty darn cool. Yeah, Cargo was a fantastic Rocky. His fall off was drastic, and that stank because, just the way his batting profile worked, age isn't going to be kind to that, where he always was a chaser, and if he could get it, he was going to demolish it. But then eventually, you get older, your bat speed slows down. That slider down and away, you're not going to catch anymore.
That big long swing.
But 2010, where he finished third in MVP voting with a Gold Glove and a Silver Slugger as the best season in his career. He was a 3-time All-Star. He won 3 Gold Gloves, 2 Silver Sluggers. And, we love Cargo. He still does stuff with the team. He's still around. He still does stuff in Colorado, but I think he mostly lives in Florida at this point. But yeah, Team Hall of Fame, Cargo's in it, no doubt.
I think one of his daughters, he posted on Instagram, I think she's in the new Just Dance game. One of his twins.
Huh.
He posted something about it where I was like, it's so random. Like, why are you posting this commercial about Just Dance?
That's why.
But Cargo, I thought he stole more bases in his career. He had the 20 stolen bases a year from 2010 to 2013. I always thought he stole more bases, but then he did start having the leg issues, and that's partly why he got moved to right field.
Yeah, that was 2014, where his speed took a hit because he had that injury. He didn't play the full season. He only played like
70.
He played less than half the season, and he never stole double-digit bases again.
Never stole more than 5 until 2018 when he stole 5 bases. Yeesh. But yeah, it's was a great player, a great Rocky. He flirted with that Triple Crown. It was like him and Joey Votto battling for that Triple Crown in 2010.
That would have been so cool.
But yeah, one of the sweetest swings in baseball history. Cannon of an arm. It's a tragedy that his career ended unceremoniously as a non-roster invitee with the Seattle Mariners in 2020.
Yeah, that one hurt. He bounced around a little bit in 2019. He was with the Cubs. He was with the
Cleveland
for a little bit. And then, non-roster invitee to spring training, and he didn't make the roster, and he retired. But it's nice to see that he's still often doing things with the Rockies organization. He was there for a lot of the Todd Helton stuff, and for the anniversary stuff, he
pops up at games all the time.
Yeah, I love Cargo. He's one of my favorites all time for this team. And while he's not a Hall of Famer, he's not. Like, I'm not gonna be delusional about that. While I would, if I had a ballot, I would, as a homer and due to my own personal thoughts, I would probably tick the box for Tulo. I couldn't tick the box for Cargo. The body of work just isn't there. But he was pretty darn good as a Colorado Rocky.
His box could definitely be ticked for a Rockies Hall of Fame.
Purple Jacket Club.
Come on. You want some easy money? some goodwill, fanfare.
Give us something to work with, Dick.
Give us a wall of fame, something.
Anyway.
But congrats to both of them, and hopefully they at least get some recognition. I think that's all we want. Some validation.
I want to hear people talk about these guys. That's all I want.
I don't want to hear that one voter guy that's like, he didn't have 3,000 hits and 500 home runs, so he's an automatic no for me.
He played in Colorado.
Shut up, Rob Parker. Is that his name?
He didn't play for the Yankees.
He didn't play for the Yankees.
Except he did
play for the Yankees.
He did. He played 5 games for the Yankees. Put him in the Hall of Fame, retire his number.
He finally was replacing Derek Jeter after all those years. Took several years, but he finally did it.
I mean, we talked about this when Larry Walker got to the Hall of Fame. Is that, remember, Larry Walker was statistically better than Derek Jeter. Mm-hmm. But Derek Jeter was a near unanimous first ballot because he was a New York Yankee.
Mm-hmm. Who played terrible defense.
Yeah. And that's not to denigrate Derek Jeter, because Derek Jeter is a Hall of Famer. I would have voted for Derek Jeter for the Hall of Fame, but it was damn criminal that Larry Walker had to wait until his final year of eligibility.
But he's in. So
all
is well.
But that's going to do it here for us on Affected by Altitude. Thank you so much for listening, as always. We've got some fun stuff, hopefully, for next week, the weekend of Thanksgiving. And Skyler, where can the folks find you at on the internet?
Find me over on X, formerly known as Twitter. Still on that dumpster fire, but I just sort of lurk there. But at sideline_crowd over there. And then on Blue Sky, you can find me S. Timmins, that's Timmins 13 at Blue Sky, BSKY.social, all that jazz. And find me over at Wednesday Rock Piles for Purple Row and writing stuff for Fans for Sports Network.
Hold on.
Who's doing the typing? Oh, there you go, there.
I am largely off of Twitter at this point. My account still exists, and I may check it periodically at Evan_Lang27. But I am trying to sort of build things up on Blue Sky, so please find me at evanlang27.bsky.social. You can also find Rocky Mountain Rooftop over on Blue Sky at Rocky Mountain Rooftop .bsky.social. That's Rocky Mountain Rooftop, ROCKYMTN Rooftop. You can also find us on basically any other social media platform and YouTube under that moniker. And you can also find us on your favorite podcasting platform of choice: Spotify, iHeart, Google Play, Apple Music, all the warriors. You can also look for me on Purple Road doing the Monday Rock Piles. And we're in the home stretch finally for the Ranking the Rockies series. I just put out my Ranking the Rockies piece on Charlie Blackmon on Friday. So go check it out if you haven't had the chance.
Mm-hmm. Good stuff.
But we're in it for the long haul. We'll see you next week as we continue the long, dark, weird off season of the Colorado Rockies. So thank you so much for joining us. And Skyler, why don't you hit him with it?
Farewell. Go, 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 go. Happy Thanksgiving.
Oh, God, the turkeys are back. Turkeys are mean. Like, if you ever encountered a wild turkey, they will ruin your day.
Yes.
That's staying in, by the way. It's just sound life advice, honestly.
This has been Affected by Altitude, a Colorado Rockies podcast with Rocky Mountain Rooftop, a proud affiliate of the Fans First Sports Network. Catch new episodes every Monday on wherever you get your favorite podcasts. Be sure to follow us on YouTube as well for video versions of the show.